Good morning, good morning, good morning, my brothers and sisters. Good morning, and welcome back to another Good Morning Grief Devotion. It's Shabbat. Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr. We are excited to be here today to lead you in a very special way in another Good Morning Grief Devotion. This is the daily grief devotional that is strategically designed to help you to navigate through your grief one day at a time. What is grief? I'm so glad you asked. Grief, my brothers and sisters, it is the natural, normal, and necessary response to loss, change, and transition that results in the expressions of feelings and emotions. Grief is what you feel on the inside. Mourning is how you reveal it on the outside. Therefore, we don't suppress it, but we express it. We don't ignore it, but we explore. We don't conceal it, but we reveal it. We don't lock it up, but we let it out. And that's why we shout good morning, because morning is a good thing. And we are grateful and thankful for you being here on today as we lead you in a very special way. And yet another good morning grief devotion. Today is day 104. We're going to talk about acceptance isn't enough. Acceptance isn't enough. Acknowledging the reality of the loss is the first need of mourning. Acknowledging the reality of the loss is the first need of mourning. I'm learning to accept and allow that which I cannot control because fighting the reality only causes me more suffering. Acknowledging the reality of the loss is the first need of mourning. Oftentimes, we are in denial, right? That is, uh, um, Miss Kubler Ross's model of grief and mourning, the first stage or a stage that people often enter into is denial. We just deny the reality that it is what it is, that it happened, that it is taking place. And so we got to know and understand that acknowledging the reality of the loss is the first need of mourning. We acknowledge the reality of the loss, right? It can be hard. It can be a bitter pill to swallow. It can be certainly most difficult, but we acknowledge the reality of the loss. Learning to accept and allow that which I cannot control because fighting the reality only causes me more suffering. We learn to accept and allow that which we cannot control. He says, I'm learning to accept and allow that which I cannot control because fighting the reality only causes me more suffering. It's when we fight the reality of what is that we do. It ended up causing us more suffering. It's a phase we go through, or something that we navigate through. But when we get to that point, that part of acceptance and acknowledging, and we're no longer fighting against something that we cannot control, that's when we can start the process, right? But as long as we fight against, right? As long as we fight against the reality, it only causes us more suffering. And that's a lot of us is just is wrestling with the reality of what is. A lot of us, we struggle because we're wrestling with the reality of what is. And that's a part of the process. But when we can get to the point to where we go from wrestling or fighting with the reality of what is to accepting the reality of what is, that's when we find ourselves in a better position to start to navigate through this process of healing. Here it is. It says, the further I journey into the wilderness of my grief, though, the more I realize that acceptance doesn't feel like enough, right? It's not just getting to the point of acceptance, but it's more. I want to do more with the death than accept it. Here it is. I love it. Let me pause for real quick. That's the first step, but it's not the final step, right? We want to acknowledge, we want to accept, and don't think that, okay, once I accept it, then I'm on the road to everything being all good. You are definitely is definitely the first step. It's not the final step, because you'll find even in this season, even in this process, that acceptance isn't enough, right? And so I want to learn from it. I want to do more with the death than accept it. I want to learn from it. I want to help other people in small but meaningful ways and make the world a better place. I want to carry my loved one's legacy forward, right? There's so much more in store. There's so much more that we need to do, that you need to do, that you have to do as you navigate through this process. That includes learning from the life of the one that's going, right? I want to learn from it. I want to help other people in small but meaningful ways. I want to make the world a better place. I want to carry my loved one's legacy forward, right? When you ask yourself these questions, what are the lessons I need to learn from this situation, right? What are the lessons I need to learn? How can I carry this legacy forward, right? How can I help other people in small and meaningful ways that stem from the lessons I learned from the life of this individual, right? There's so much more, right? We're going to acknowledge it, yes. We're going to accept it, yes. But even moving forward from there, we want to learn from it. We want to help other people in small and meaningful ways. We want to do things that will help carry the legacy of our loved one forward. Acceptance is an essential first step, but as long as I have the privilege of continuing to live, I have many more steps I can take. That's why we say this is a grief journey. It's not just something that you deal with and you get over and that's it. No, it's a journey. It's a journey of healing. It's a journey of acknowledging. It's a journey of accepting. It's a journey of carrying the legacy of the individual forward. Yeah, we got the first step of accepting, right? But it's a journey that we navigate through, that we push through. It's a journey that we continue for the duration of our lives. And there are things that we do, there are things that we um, continue to learn and discover as we push through, as we move through, as we go through, as we grow through, as we navigate through the journey. And so you got to ask yourself some of these questions, right? What are you learning, right? You accept, you acknowledge. What are you learning? What are you learning from this experience? What have you learned from navigating through the grief process? What have you learned from the life of the individual that has transitioned? How can you help other people in small but meaningful ways, right? How can you help other people? What is it that you can do to help other people as a result of the loss that you have incurred, right? Um, what are the ways you can make the world a better place? How can you make the world a better place? Part of this whole grief devotion is my attempt to make the world a better place, to bring more awareness and education and action towards people who are navigating through the grief process, right? How can you carry your loved one's legacy forward, right? How can you do that? Remember, acceptance is an essential first step, but as long as you have the privilege of continuing to live, there are many more steps you can take. What steps do you need to take as you continue to navigate through this journey? Let's look at this final thought. As I acknowledge the death, I allow myself to search for meaning. As I acknowledge the death, I allow myself to search for meaning. As you continue to acknowledge the death of your loved one, I want you to continue to allow yourself the opportunity to search for meaning. You are searching for meaning as you navigate through this process. Today is day 104. Thank y'all for coming back for some more acceptance. Mm-mm. It simply isn't enough. We're going to acknowledge, we're going to accept, we're going to continue to search for meaning. Holla at your boy. Questions, comments if you got them. Questions, comments if you got them. If you got them. Questions, comments if you got them. If you got them. Questions, comments if you got them. If you got them. Y'all ain't got none. Y'all ain't talking about nothing this morning. I appreciate y'all, though. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. Y'all a little quiet this morning. Hope you have a sensational Saturday. Remember, we're going to acknowledge, we're going to accept, we're going to continue to search for meaning and push this legacy forward. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. Have a sensational Saturday, Pastor Duncan.